Today is day 13. We're reading from Job 35 through chapter 37. I commend you. You guys are sticking with this. And here we are getting to the latter part of the book of Job. Some of you are saying, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Some of you are saying, I can't wait to get out of this book. So there's a mix of reviews on this. But I do believe that we're picking up some very significant things out of these passages of scripture. Now, Elihu is the youngest of these friends. He has been silent, and now he begins to speak. Interesting enough, though, he speaks for six chapters. Job remains silent, and maybe, I don't know, he's humbling himself, or maybe he's exhausted from all of these discourses from his friends. Tomorrow, God is going to answer these friends, and he's going to share openly his own observation. He's the one friend God does not mention. This youngest one here, Elihu, God does not address him. So I don't know what the reason of that is. That's something that we could ponder and maybe have discussions about. Well, many of the things, just like the others that he's addressing, are true. When applied to Job's life, they are not necessarily true. Like suggesting Job thinks that he has no sin. In verse 8 of chapter 35, he says, your wickedness affects a man such as you. Now, Job never denies the fact that he's a flawed human being. In fact, the reason he offers sacrifices is because obviously he knows that he's in need of God's forgiveness. He suggests, Elihu suggests that he's getting what he deserves. And while it is true that when life is sweet, we may think we don't need God, trouble has a way of reminding us of our need for the Lord. But I don't believe at all that that's Job. There's evidence all through that Job continues to love God, seeks after him, worships him. Elihu challenges some of Job's thinking, like, why live right and what advantage is there for the righteous and the unrighteous? That's in 35:3. And that's some of the things that Job started saying is, what's the benefit of living right since, all this disaster's come upon me? Elihu suggests in chapter 36, 11 and 12, that if one lives right, listen, you're going to be well, you're going to be wealthy, you're going to be rich, and your sons are going to go to battle and they will not die. All of that, of course, is a fallacy. We know that's not true. We know that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. We know that bad things happen to good people. And it's a concept we hear often that, if you have enough faith and you do things right, then calamity and disaster never come to you. We know that that is not biblically accurate. He does acknowledge big thoughts. Elihu acknowledges big thoughts about God. He talks about magnifying his works and behold, God is great and we don't know him. Describes God's awesome majesty. He's about him excellent in power. And you think to yourself, how did they know so much about God? How did they get this description of God? Obviously, it is passed down much by oral tradition, but I think even more than that, what Paul talks about, that all of creation declares the glory and the majesty of God. But does Job really have small thoughts about God? I don't believe that at all. Elihu started his discourse yesterday very somewhat humble and quiet turns. It turns into anger and seems to be against Job. Tomorrow, we're going to hear God's response. And this is going to be interesting. And for those of you, maybe you've not done this before, it's going to be enlightening for those of us that have. It still reminds us of God's ability to confront and to bring us back to reality. And God doesn't say much about Elihu. That's the thing that's interesting. He talks about the other three friends. God really doesn't mention this Elihu, and I don't know why that is, but he does jump on some of his themes. Job's long battle is about to come to an end. It's been long, it's been hard, it's been difficult. He's had virtually no support whatsoever, but God's about to break the silence. Listen, there is a comfort that comes from seeing a righteous man, a blameless man, in the midst of adversity and realizing that God loved him, cared for him, and that we're going to find out wasn't based upon his performance. And it's wonderful to know that we have a God who's very interested in our life, our challenge, and our difficulty. I pray today that you will walk in that blessed assurance that Jesus indeed is yours, and that we have access to the Father through Jesus, something that Job didn't have like we have. And so no matter what you're dealing with, there's hope. Hang on, because tomorrow we're going to hear God's perspective on all of this.